Greetings and shalom to everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. Welcome to another Health Talk with Lisa. I am Lisa Thomas, your clinical practitioner and host of Health Talk with Lisa. So today's podcast episode, we are going to be talking about how to deal with people without losing your mind. So let's get into it. Have you ever met someone who has the magical ability to just drain your entire week in a single conversation? Well, I get it all the time because some of you may know I am an educator, and so I have to deal with people on a consistent basis. And some people, they're easy to talk to, and then others, they just, I have to woosah. But I'm thinking of this one coworker that I have who could just turn a simple 2-minute question like, hey, what is the Wi-Fi password? Into a full-blown TED Ed conversation of how the internet was even invented and why her cousin doesn't even trust it. And the tragic story of how of time her cat sat on her keyboard. And then by the end of the whole conversation, I didn't even care about the Wi-Fi password anymore. I just needed a whole nap. She just wore me out. Just or I can also remember a time when I asked a patient, what is the name of the medication that you're taking? And then they took me all the way from when their cousins of their daddy's side um, knew their mother on their grandmother's side. And it was just ongoing. Now, I run into conversations like that on a consistent basis. But let's face it, people are amazing, right? But yet they can be exhausting. And the thing is, we can't avoid them. And honestly, most of the time, we don't want to. But learning how to deal with them, whether it's your sweet, nosy neighbor or your overly competitive coworker or that one family member who somehow makes, a family event seem like a hostage negotiation is one of life's most important survival skills. So today, we're diving into the art of handling human interactions without losing your cool or your sense of humor. So whether you love people or tolerate them or just one step away from moving into some cabin in the woods, I think I got you covered. So sit back, or well, before you sit back, go ahead and go grab you something to drink. Grab your tea, grab your coffee, or maybe for this conversation, go grab a glass of wine. I don't know, whatever your preference is, and let's get into it. So let's first start with understanding different people. Here's the thing. People are like phone chargers, right? We all look similar when we just kind of glance at them, right? At first glance. But try plugging the wrong one into the wrong outlet and nothing works. And sometimes if you plug it in, you plug in the wrong cord, something just may catch on fire, right? So step one in dealing with people is understanding that not everyone thinks, feel, or processes the world the way that you do. I had to learn a long time ago that I had to stop setting expectations or my expectations onto other people because other people don't think the way that I do. Other people don't feel the way that I do. I cannot expect people to work in the way that I do or act in the way that I do, which I know this, but I had to learn to stop setting high expectations for other people. So, for examples, the different people that we have to deal with. We have introverts, we have extroverts, we have the detail-oriented thinkers, which I believe I'm probably going to fall right in that number. And then we got the big picture thinkers, in which I also probably fall in that number too. But let's look at each one of these. Okay. So with the introverts, they're not antisocial. Okay. They are just recharged by just being alone. Now, actually, I think I have a little bit of all four of these, really and truly, because I enjoy being alone. And I tell people all the time, I say, oh, I'm an introvert. And they're like, yeah, right. Well, I think to a degree I am, because I really do enjoy being alone. And so, but for those true introverts, talking to too many people in one day, it's like running all their apps at one time, and the battery dies pretty fast. Now, that wouldn't be exactly me, but I do have my point to where I really just want to steal away and, and not be around people. I just want to kind of be alone. Okay. So that's why I say I have a little bit of introversion, but I wouldn't say I'm a true introvert, but I have my moments. Okay. So introverts, they're not antisocial. They just want, they just can't take too many people or too many things happening all at the same time, because, they just shut down. Okay. But then you have your extroverts. Okay. These are your social butterflies. Okay. Your solar panels, and they get energy from people. So they have to be around other people. But if you leave them alone too long, then they'll start talking to their plants or to the animals or to the walls, maybe, start giving them nicknames and things. So I do have a little extrovert, in me as well, because I do like to be around some people every now and then. That's only when I want to be. So you might agree, you might have a little bit of both, right? I think I fall kind of, halfway in between the spectrum there. But the extroverts, they have to be around other people, so you don't want to leave them alone too long. But then you have your detail-oriented thinkers. So these folks, they want every I dotted, every T crossed. And then they double check them, double, triple, quadruple check them. And in the New Times Roman font. So yeah, that I have to say that's probably me too. Because I want everything to be right. You may feel the same way. You may be that detail-oriented thinker as well. And then the big picture thinkers. They're not ignoring the details. They just live on a higher altitude. Okay. They think, they're on a different plane of thinking, their mind, they're on the different level. They're already imagining the next big ideal. While you're still wondering if we have enough coffee, they're probably thinking about how the coffee bean was produced, and and how it metamorphosized into how it became to be its being. That's probably the big picture thinker. So that may be you. I don't know. You could have a combination of all of these types of personalities. Who knows? But these are the different types of people that we deal with on a consistent basis in the world. So on top of personality types, there's also the emotional triggers and the communication styles. Some people respond best to direct, clear statements. Okay. Like, here's what we need to do. Okay. Whereas others may need a little warmth and a little bit more affirmations before you get to the point. And then there are those people who seem to speak entirely in sarcasms. Now, I don't care too much for those type of individuals. But then some people may enjoy them. Me, I just don't care for those kind. I tend to kind of, yield away from those type of individuals, because they kind of, for me personally, I'm only speaking for Lisa. They tend to get under my skin just a little bit. Because that sarcasm is a language all of its own. Some people use sarcasm as a defense mechanism, and so that may be a way to shield them from certain things, and to each his own. To each his own, and maybe you are that sarcastic type of individual. I don't know, but that may be, an individual that you may have to deal with. And so you have all these different type of communication styles. So recognizing these differences isn't about labeling people. It's about now you having to adjust now your approach of how you deal with them. I tell my girls all the time, you cannot control what other people do or say, but the only thing you can do is control how you respond to them. Okay? So if you're talking to an introvert, then don't ambush them with a surprise group brainstorm session, because that's probably not going to work for them. Okay. If you're talking to a big picture thinker, then don't start with maybe, with the printer settings, start with a vision, start with, with them, you got to start with a vision, because they can go with you there, because now they're looking at the big picture. So the smoother you can match your communication style with theirs, the less friction you're going to experience, okay, and feel. And then the more likely they'll actually hear you instead of planning their escape route to get away from you, right? Okay, so let's look at some of the common challenges when dealing with people. So now that we decoded some of the personality wiring, let's talk about the real life obstacles, okay? The everyday characters that you may meet, the ones that make you question life choices, and I'm sure as I go down this list, you're going to probably know someone, or you're probably gonna know someone for each one of these. Okay, so let's talk about the first one. This first one is the chronic interrupter. So this is the person who believes that the conversation is a competitive sport. So you may start a sentence out and they feel morally obliged to finish it for you, and yet finish it incorrectly. Yeah, so dealing with them takes patience. Or if you're feeling bold, then you can say, hang on, let me finish my thought before you gift me with yours. Yeah, give me a moment and allow me to continue the process of the words that are coming from my brain and my thought processes, before you decide to, shower me with what it is that you have to display. Because this person is going to continue to interrupt you. And if you don't stop the behaviors, they'll just continue to do it. Now, if they take offense to it, then yeah, it's all about them anyway. But then, of course, that shows you who you're dealing with, right? So that's the chronic interrupter. Then you have the number 2, the overly negative person. Now, I'm sure you know someone in this category, right? So now you have some people who have the uncanny ability to find a storm cloud in every silver lining. You'll be like, okay, it's such a beautiful day today. What's so beautiful about it? Oh, okay, but it is a beautiful day. It's bright and it's sunny. The Most High woke us up. Well, everybody didn't wake up today. Like, dang, Debbie Downer. Really? You don't have nothing positive to say? So that's that negative person. Or it may be someone that, maybe it might be a family member. You tell them, oh, I got a promotion today. And they say, yeah, okay, so you got a promotion. So watch out. You're going to move into a new tax bracket. Really? How about congratulations on your new promotion? Yeah, I'm sure each of you know one of these types of individuals, right? So when you have someone that is always negative, sometimes the best approach is just to acknowledge their point and then just gently pivot, the conversation before they just suck the joy out of the very positive thing you tried to put on display. because they'll just suck the joy right out of the room, and then you'll just be left with you'll just be left with you'll just be left with, just this whole drawn out negative feeling. So yeah, so it'll be best that you just say, okay, when they say, one moment. So when they say, oh, what is so wonderful about the day? You can say, well, um, the day is wonderful and I feel great. I'm in good health. You appear to be in good health, and that's what matters. And then shift on to something else. Otherwise, they'll just take it in a different direction, and you'll be like, man, maybe it's not a good day. No, we don't want to go there. Continue to have your good day. If they want to be a negative Nancy, then let them be a negative Nancy. Then next we have the know-it-all. Now, I know you know some know-it-alls, right? Now, this is the individual that seems to be the walking encyclopedia. They know everything. Now, you know that there is no one that knows everything, right? Except they sometimes skip the fact of fact checking. They know everything, but they tend to not fact check. As a matter of fact, a lot of times when they know it all, it's because they are gathering knowledge that they have gained from someone else who probably did not fact check. And they just assume that that individual was right, or they're giving you regurgitated and passed down information that they got from someone else. And then they just assume that Wikipedia is correct, even though that is an editable website. And then they just figure they must be right because Google says that they're right. So with the know-it-alls, you can either engage in the battle of the egos, okay? Engage with them and go back and forth with a debate that could lead to either a healthy debate or flat out argument, or simply nod and say, okay, smile, and then move on with your peace intact. One of the things about the know-it-alls, I find them funny because when someone tries to debate me on something that I know clearly they don't know what they're talking about, I do find myself having to digress and just say, all right, I'm going to let you have that. Because 9 times out of 10, if I come and I say something to someone or I give a rebuttal to something that someone says, I've already done the homework. I've already checked the facts, or I already know it because it's already been something that was studied by myself. Because I am a fact checker, I have to know the facts before I actually say something about it. That's just who I am. I am the type that have to know the facts. So when someone comes to me about something, they need to come to me with the facts because I am the fact checker. Opinions are okay, but they're for you. Opinions are for you, and opinions they're okay to hear, but I don't thrive off of opinions. I only go off the facts. So when you find yourself, encountering individuals that seem to know it all, but they haven't really done their homework, and something's just not adding up, or they have not validated truth, then there's no point of even debating with them. Just say, okay, all righty, and then just leave that alone, because no one wins. It's pointless. In fact, you're wasting time that you cannot even get back. There's no health to that. In fact, it's not healthy at all. Why? Because now you're raising raising your stress levels. You're releasing cortisol unnecessarily. Your heart rate's going up. You're pumping out blood, and just raising your blood pressure is just so unnecessary. And I'm all about promoting good health. This is not promoting good health. arguing back and forth with people. Now, there are some good, healthy debates. Those are usually structured, in a controlled setting. And then there's just some time wasters. And when people are wasting your time with a lot of nonsense, that's time you just cannot get back. So just go ahead and move on with your peace intact. And then we have number 4, the ghoster. The ghoster is also known as the non-communicator. Now, this person is the one who disappears mid-project, mid-conversation, or sometimes mid-life events. You send an email, silence. You deliver a phone call and leave a voice message, silence. You send a text message, silence. You go out on a date. You're thinking a date went well, silence. You're on social media. You're having interactions with this individual, silence. A follow-up that's supposed to occur, silence. And then all of a sudden, they reappeared like nothing happened. Well, the trick is have a backup plan, because clear and timelessness, so you won't be left hanging in communication limbo. Okay? Because when people ghost you and they don't communicate, and then all of a sudden they show up as if nothing happens, this is a game that is being played. And people should not be playing games like that. No one has time to be playing games. If they can go and to ghost you and to not communicate, then they might as well just stay gone. Because again, why play this ping pong game back and forth? Why? Because this is an emotional game, and no one have time to play emotional games. Okay. So these are individuals that you may encounter on a consistent basis. So recognizing these patterns doesn't mean you have to change who you are. It just means that you just have to adapt your playbook so you're not consistently caught off guard. Because the truth is, you can't change people, but again, you can only change how you deal with them. Okay? So let's talk about strategies for dealing with people. So now I've given you the little humor about the different personality quirks that we have to deal with on a consistent basis. So now that we kind of, maybe have chuckled a little bit about some of these people, let's be real here. At some point, we have to actually deal with them, right? So here are a few survival tools that will help you to keep your sanity, okay, while still being kind and reasonable, because that's what we should be. We should be kind and reasonable and still loving, right? So the first thing we should do is stay calm, okay, and not reactive. So ever notice that how some people are just emotional? They're like emotional hotspots, Wi-Fi hotspots, right? You get too close, and all of a sudden you picking up on their bad signals, because now because we test the spirits by the spirits, right? So you get too close, you can pick up on those spirits, right? You start picking up. You can tell if they're just not in a good mood, or if they got a negative spirit upon them, or if they're in a good mood, you can pick up on these spirits, right? But if they have a bad signal, you can pick up on it. So what you want to do is first pause before you start responding. Because what you want to make sure is that you don't take this thing personal. They could very well be having a bad day and it don't have anything to do with you. Okay? I always tell my children, look beyond the individual and look at the spirit. When you're encountering people, look what's operating within. Because it's the spirit that is operating within that is now using them as a vehicle. How did they wake up that day? We don't know. But whatever, however they woke up or whatever's going on with them, now they're now encountering you, and it can very well be warring with your spirit. So it may not have anything to do with you. You may be pleasant in your spirit. You may be, the Most High is good. You praising, you've been worshiping, and all of a sudden Satan is upset. The adversary Hashatan is not happy with you, and now this person's like, wait a minute now. That light's too bright. We got to dim that light. And now you got a person that is now bumping heads with you. And what for? You didn't do anything to them. And they really didn't do anything to you except have a bad attitude. And because they had a bad attitude, because you didn't have on your whole armor, you came with it. So just pause. Just pause before you respond. Okay. Count to 3. Take a slow breath. Okay. Sip your coffee. Okay. Sip your coffee. Like you're in a commercial. Breathe. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Okay. Anything that you can do to stop yourself from firing off at the first sharp comment that enters into your mind, that's getting ready to proceed out your mouth. Because if you keep yourself calm and don't react, okay, because that's the thing, we tend to respond really quickly. If you keep yourself calm and think first, breathe, realize that this probably have nothing to do with you, then you can think a little bit clearer. Okay. So that's the first thing I want to caution you to do. Just stay calm and not reactive. Okay. Wait to respond. Okay. If it even warrants a response at all, because it probably don't even warrant a response. Because sometimes someone snaps at you, sometimes you probably just need to go, okay, I'll come back to that. I'll come back when you are in a better mood. Or maybe you don't even have to say that to them. You can just come back and you can just say it to yourself, okay, go back to them when they're in a better mood. This is not a good time. And then you retreat. And then you can come back later on. Is everything okay? Because earlier, something appeared to have been wrong. And then at that point, that gives them enough time to now look at themselves and say, this, that, and the other was going on, and I did not mean to snap at you, blah, 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 blah. But if you react while that was happening, now you all are doing this here. That's a strong possibility you're going to be doing this here. So just stay calm and not react. The next thing, set boundaries. So boundaries are like the fences for your peace of mind. Not too high, not too low. Just enough to keep the neighborhood raccoons from running your life. So be clear about what's okay and what's not. Okay? And just remember, not to let people run over you. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. No is a complete sentence. Some people have a hard time saying no. I don't. No. Heck no. Some people say hell no. I don't think so. However you say no. You can say no. No is a complete sentence. Okay? So, again, no, it speaks volumes. It's complete. You don't owe no explanation after that. It is what it is. You don't have to write a dissertation or an essay behind it. No is no. Just like yes is yes. We don't have to go get a book. We don't have to go do no publishing rights. None of that. No is just no. Okay? Set those boundaries. And it don't matter who it's with. You can set boundaries, family, friends, co-workers, whomever. Strangers, no is no. Okay. The next thing is choose your battles. Okay. I tell my oldest daughter this all the time. Choose your battle. Everything is not worth fighting over. Everything don't even warrant a response. Because sometimes your response can lead to an argument. Why? Why? Not every hill is worth dying on. Some things you can just let go. Some people have a chip on their shoulder. Okay, and that's their chip. It's not my bag of chips. It's their chip. Obviously, they're the one with the problem. I'm not the one with the problem. So when people have these issues, you have to think about it. Did I do anything that caused this issue? Did I do anything to contribute to this issue? Does this have anything to do with me at all? If I can say no to any of this, then what in the world am I getting upset for? What in the world am I making myself a part of it for? Because now all I'm doing is just adding stress to my life. Why? Choose your battles. Some things you can just let go. Like when people mispronounce your name. Some people just cannot stand it when people mispronounce their names and they get so bent out of shape. Why? Now, you can correct someone, okay, especially if it's a coworker. You correct the person that you work with. My name is, let's say, Lisa. And I work with you. And I've told you once, my name is Lisa. But then every day that you see me, you decide to call me Lisa, Alicia, or whatever you decide to call me. And I've already corrected you. Now, if you continue to mispronounce my name, then I'm going to think that you're probably doing this on purpose. So if I have an issue with it, I may say, I've already told you that my name is Lisa. Now, I don't know if there is a issue with your communication or if you're doing this on purpose. It could be an issue with dialect. I don't know. But I'm only going to mention it once. But if you keep doing it, then I'm going to just assume that perhaps you're doing it on purpose. And at this point, I will figure out then how I need to handle you. But what if it's a stranger? Maybe you're at a coffee shop and they mispronounce your name. Maybe your name is difficult to pronounce. What's the point of getting mad at them and cursing them out because they mispronounced your name? Okay? So just think about it. You can save your energy for things that really matter. Okay? So choose your battles. And then let's practice active listening. Most people want to be heard more than what they want to be right? So when you really listen, when you're really listening without checking your phone, mentally planning dinner, or drafting your response, you give people the gift of feeling like they're being heard and that they're being valued. So when you're having a conversation with someone, you really need to give them that active listening. You need to be paying them attention. You need to look them eye to eye and show them that you are actively listening. Because if you're doing this here while they're talking to you, yeah, that makes people very upset and they don't feel valued because you're not paying me any attention, but rather what's more important on that phone or drafting, a response. Then they don't feel any value. So active listening gives you more information before you decide how to respond to an individual that is talking to you. And then you all can have active dialogue, right? So practice active listening. And then empathy without being a doormat. Now, in the field that I'm in, I have to practice empathy all the time And empathy is very powerful because it is seeing the world from someone else's perspective without dragging their emotional baggage home with us. Okay. It's one thing to have sympathy for someone, but to have empathy, to be able to put yourself in someone else's shoes, that's a lot. Okay. So being able to understand someone else's pain and frustration without taking it on as your own personal responsibility, that's a big load. That's a big load. So I have to be real careful not to become people's doormats because I'm always being dumped on and having to listen to people's problems all of the time. So with that, I have to go and do a purging. I have to do a filtration all the time because I'm always in that position to where I have to listen to people's problems. But I'm not a doormat. I'm not a doormat, nor am I a trash can. I empty all the time. And that's the reason why I will get to myself and I will decompress and I will, free my mind and I will meditate and I will, and me and the Most High, we have a good old conversation and I will release things because I cannot take those burdens home. I cannot let it, alter my sleep. I cannot let it alter my moods. I cannot allow it to alter my appetite, and my personality. I cannot allow it. I hear it, I deal with it, whatever I need to deal with, and then it's gone. Okay. So we can have empathy without being a doormat. So the magic in these strategies, I don't want to say magic, the uniqueness, let's just say this, the uniqueness in these strategies is that it may help us to control the only thing that can actually help us, and that is ourselves. To control ourselves, because again, we can't stop people from being difficult at all, but we can stop them from dragging us down with them, though. We can stop that. And so we need to know, at what point, when is it okay to walk away? Because sometimes the best way to deal with someone is to stop dealing with them. And I've had to do that to some people, to just stop altogether, to keep them from dragging you down with them. And I know it's not always possible. Some people tell me, oh, you say this is much better said than done. Oh, but it can be done. It's about what you want to do. And yes, sometimes it's the people that's closest to you, but sometimes for your peace of mind and your sanity, you have to do that. You can't exactly always block your boss or avoid a cousin or a family member, but you can give them some boundaries. You can set some boundaries. But when interactions consistently keep you drained and stressed out and questioning your self-worth, it's time to reevaluate some things, right? So walking away doesn't have to be dramatic, no smoke bomb and disappearing into the night, but it can be as simply as limiting your availability. So again, setting boundaries, not engaging in every argument or any argument for that matter, or politely exiting the conversation, I got to go do something, I got to get back to something, or, let's pick this up later. Let's table this for a later date. Okay. Or a later time, because protecting your peace, it's not being selfish. It's being realistic. It's being necessary, right? Because the truth is, if you burn yourself out trying to manage everybody else's moods and their behaviors, you won't even have the energy for the people who actually matter. So you got to take care of you. I got to take care of me. So we're the one that matters, right? Okay. Yes, other people matter, but we cannot burn ourselves out trying to manage everybody else. We can only manage us, right? At the end of the day, we can only manage us. So as I'm closing this out, here's the takeaway. Dealing with people is a part of, is an art, really. It's part art, it's part skill, it's part choosing to laugh instead of scream. It's choosing to laugh instead of choking them out. Yes, I said choking them out, because I know sometimes you probably want to do this here. It's choosing to laugh instead of doing that. It's choosing to laugh instead of crying, but the more you understand personalities, spot the common challenges, use those strategies to keep you grounded, right? The smoother your relationships will be, and definitely your days will be. So The next time you meet a chronic interrupter, a know-it-all, or your favorite neighborhood storm cloud, just remember this. You can't control them, but you can control your response. And sometimes that's all you need in order for you to stay sane. People wonder how I do it because I know how to control me. I know how to set boundaries, and I use my 3Ds because here it is. And I tell this to my students all the time. If it does not add value to my life, it has to go. And it's my 3Ds. Discontinue, delete, and discard. And I'm going to give you that again for free. Discontinue, delete, and discard. Like take out the trash, because Lisa Thomas do not let people pull her down. So let me encourage you on today with Health Talk with Lisa. You just need to do what is necessary to keep you sane. Amen. Amen. So I would like to hear from you. You can hit me up, because this is going to be on YouTube. So you can put a comment under the video and kind of give me your feedback and let me know what you think. I want to hear, what is your funniest, strangest, most unforgettable dealing with a people story? Send it in. Who knows? I may be able to feature it in one of my episodes. So until next time, keep your boundaries strong and keep your coffee and your tea hot, and definitely your peace of mind priceless. Until next time, thank you for listening to Health Talk with Lisa, and take care. Shalom.